All right, Coach Gipson, assistant head coach at Lamar University. Coach, thanks for being here on this beautiful morning we have.
That's right. Appreciate you having me. Fired up to be here.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. I know I told my wife I got a podcast in the morning. She goes, how early? I said 7:30. She goes, what? I said, college coaches don't sleep. So I'm going to get up and do it.
That's pretty accurate. Pretty accurate.
We live off of energy drinks, coffee, and anything we could find.
Right. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I appreciate it. Let's talk about you because we never met till now. Let's talk about your coaching journey. Like, how'd you end up at Lamar? Did you want to coach? How did you fall into it? How did that all work?
Yeah, I would say in college, I went to college to work for a professional sports team. That was kind of the plan. I mean, I always knew I wanted to be in athletics in some form or fashion, right? So living here in Texas, I was a big Dallas Cowboy, Texas Ranger fan. So I decided, I'd work for one of those professional organizations, make a career out of it, retire, and make some money and have a family, and that would be my life,
Right.
It all got turned upside down a little bit for me, and about halfway through college, and really I attribute it a little bit to my family background is a history of educators, and then also an experience at my church where I was invited to be a Sunday school teacher for 8th graders when I was in college, and I was playing college baseball at the time, actually. And thought, there's no way I want to do this. This is not what I'm cut out for. I gave it a shot, loved it. That kind of led me to believe that maybe I could use the vehicle of athletics to impact young people. And really the passion and the fire for that started at that point in college. And, that set me out on a coaching journey. I had an uncle that was a longtime Texas high school football coach, and I'd been on the sidelines with him. And thinking back to those experiences, I just felt like, that was a place that I wanted to be, and a sport I wanted to be in. And the passion for the sport, the passion for the impact that you can make through the sport, and obviously just the competitive side of it has led me to where I am today. So I had a 13-year career as a high school coach, and this will be my 8th year in college football.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you took the long path, like going through high school and then making the jump to college.
Sure did.
So when you started coaching at the high school, was college a goal, or did it just kind of the right opportunity had to show itself?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a pretty complicated answer just because I think my biography may be a little different. I did coach college softball for 9 years, and when I was a high school football coach. So my wife was the pitching coach at the University of Texas at Tyler. She was an All-American player in college, much better athlete than I ever thought about being. And she did that, and I was a volunteer on the side. And so I kind of got into college athletics pretty early. And so being able to combine that with coaching high school football, college football became very intriguing to me because of the recruiting side. Yeah. And then, just through the course of time and being able to send players to play in college football and learning the game and learning what it was about, it became something that, it was something that was a goal, I guess you could say, or my wife and I basically talked about it in terms of let's be where our feet are. Let's pour everything into the opportunity we have. But if that door was to open, that was something that we would be open to.
Right. Okay, that's awesome, because I know sometimes, like up here in the Chicagoland area, some guys will teach at high school, but then they go coach at like NAIA schools that are around the area. And I'm like, oh, so you're living the dream. Like, well, I'm coaching high school right after school. You're going to a college and coaching. And they're like, yeah, but the pay's probably the same. So who's really winning here?
Right.
And you have more pressure of recruiting and winning. And I'm like, all right, that's true. My stipend's probably the same as you guys going to do that. But that's awesome, because that's a unique story. I love that, because you never hear that. Like, hey, I was coaching high school football, but I was doing college softball. Like, that's awesome. I love the uniqueness of it. So then you kind of understood then the whole college side. So when you went into college football, was that transition very easy then? Like, all right, I know exactly kind of what to expect.
Yeah, in certain situations, yes. Like, I would give you the example of I started off my college career as a Division III offensive coordinator, assistant head coach, and obviously in that environment there was a high quantity of recruiting. The numbers were really high. in terms of the number you wanted to bring into that university. And so being able to sit down with a family and say, the window sticker price of this university is this, but here's how we can help you at this school through a potential Pell Grant, Texas grant, academic scholarship, a number of different ways that we can help build your financial aid package. I had a really good understanding of that from my college softball experience.
Right.
And then, the part that was definitely different to me, but I did have some experience, was one of my favorite times of year as a high school coach was when college coaches started to come in December, January, and May, and you just got to sit down and talk with them about their experiences and their beliefs and philosophies. And now it just turned to be, I was on the other side of the desk, being able to go talk to the people that were running high school football programs. And my recruiting area was the area where I was a high school coach, so I knew a lot of those people. So it was really a smooth transition as far as that goes. And then just the ability to be able to work with kids on basically a year-long basis was different as well. So yes, there were some transitions, but that time really prepared me pretty well to help on that side of it.
Right. People don't realize that, like Division III, you have like a quota almost, which kind of sucks because you don't want that. Like, oh, we have to force kids to get here. But I think knowing some Division III coaches, they do it the right way. Like, yes, even though we have to recruit these kids, we still take the time to find the right type of kids that we want. And I think when coaches go from Division III to Division II, 1AA or whatever, or FCS, excuse me, they don't want to call it 1AA anymore. That it almost makes them a better recruiter because they understand like how to talk to those type of kids because they have to pay to play. So I think just outside looking at it helps the transition of recruiting when you move up.
It does. It does. I mean, I think that, the big point with that is 6% of high school football players get a chance to play college football.
Yep.
Every college experience is a great experience. There's no such thing as a bad college degree. And for me, I was very thankful being where I am now. Looking back on it, I am very, very thankful that I got to experience high school football. I'm very thankful I got to experience Division III football. I was a Division III athlete myself, and what it teaches you more than anything. And I was at a smaller high school where I was the head coach. You better be able to wear a lot of hats.
Yep. You
better be very grateful for the opportunity that you have. And, people that talk about wanting to be coaches someday, you probably want to see it from this perspective because it's not all about drawing up vertical routes on the board. That's really a small percentage of it if we're really going to run a program effectively. So you better know how to do laundry. You better know how to sort equipment. You better know how to budget. And those are things that you learn through coming up through the high school ranks and then into the Division III ranks. And I think that has helped me quite a bit as far as what I'm doing right now.
Oh yeah, I'm at our school. We're very spoiled. We have a sports equipment manager guy that's hired at the school. So he does football laundry and like all that stuff. So we don't have to do that side. We have turf, so you don't paint it anymore. But we have to run the summer camps. If a kid can't pay, how do you handle the kid not paying? There's a waiver. And then, the schedule got mixed up, so this team has the turf. What are you going to do when that happens? The strength coach is outside the school and has a summer job, so who's going to step up and run stuff? So, like for me, I stepped up and started running the speed stuff. So now you're running speed. And then after practice, this kid had a bad day. He's going to come talk to you. Now you're going to be a therapist on top of it. Like, okay, what happened? Let's talk about it. I'm going to charge your parents $100 an hour to talk to you. Like, just so many different things. But I coached at a small school, and I remember you painted the game field. You had to do the stencils, and then you had to do the laundry. You had to fundraise and all this stuff, like just all these headaches that people don't see. And then they're like, well, you get a stipend. And I'm like, if I break down that stipend of yours, I'm making like $1 an hour.
That's right.
You don't get paid in the summer really either. So it's like you're doing all this extra stuff. And don't get me started. And then us coaches, like I do basketball and softball. I never stop. I'm doing all three sports. And then I started a speed thing for all athletics. So I'm trying to work with every athletic program in the summer to get them faster. So now I'm doing 4 things. And I'm like, I'm burning the candle at both ends right now. That's why today, no school. The school's closed down. And I'm like, I get the day off.
There we go.
Get to talk to a college coach today. So you've always been in Texas then, right? And never worked outside of Texas?
I've never worked outside the state of Texas.
Oh, that's awesome. Correct me if I'm wrong. How long has Lamar University been around? Is it newer or is it?
Well, that probably a twofold answer to that question. Number one, we just celebrated our 100-year anniversary. So in 2023, it was 100 years. And then football-wise, though, had football for 50 years, did away with it in 1990. There's a 20-year gap where there was no football here. Program restarted 2010. And so it's somewhat of a newer football program in terms of if you didn't follow college football or you're a kid back in that time, you probably don't remember. There was no Lamar football in 1990 through 2010. So that's when you started watching football. Then Lamar is still kind of a new program. It's not really new. There is a history. It just was a 20-year gap where there wasn't football.
Oh, I was born in 1990, so maybe I'm the reason why it went away. Who knows?
There you go.
But one of my friends in high school and first year of college, his mom had moved to Texas. And I remember he visited, met a girl that he really liked. So he was going to leave and move to Texas. And I remember him saying, I'm going to go to Lamar University. And I vaguely remember him saying they just got a football program.
Yep.
So that's why I'm very so when I saw you on Twitter, I was like, Lamar, where have I heard that before? I was like, oh yeah, I remember him talking about it. And so that's why I couldn't remember if it had just started a football program or if it had it and then didn't have it, so it's a small world. I was like, I remember because he was going to go there. He's like, we went to Eastern Illinois. And so then he was going to go to Lamar. And I said, you going to try to play football? He goes, yeah, they just started a football program. Maybe I'll try. Then he went down there and he goes, nah, no, this is like Division I. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. He was not going to do that. So how am I going to say this? If you restarted a football program, when you got there, was there struggles or does it seem like it never left? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you this, right, just from a big picture perspective. I think the number one thing that I've seen in my time here, and I came in 2020, is that you want to have a really strong alumni base.
Yeah.
You want to connect with your alumni. You want them to feel welcome on game day. You want to be able to celebrate wins of the past with them. And we have some really phenomenal alumni here at Lamar that are very involved in the program, very supportive of the program. But if you look at some of the teams in our conference, they have, that age group of 1990 through 2010 college athletics, right? That's the age of like 35 to 55 right now, which is a really big part of your alumni base, and we have none. So, so that's been something that is different and something that we got to really connect with our younger alumni and still maintain a great connection with our older alumni, because right there in that middle age category, we just don't have any.
Right.
But one thing I will say is that when they did restart the program, they did a really nice job of committing to facilities and committing to doing it right. And so we have a beautiful building. I believe it was a $38 million building they built in 2010. And there's been some massive improvements in that even in the last 2 years. And so their commitment here to success, when they jumped back in, they jumped back in. They didn't stick a toe in the water. So I'm very thankful for that. We have a beautiful 16,000 seat stadium, one of the biggest in FCS, and it makes a really good game day atmosphere. So when they brought it back, the strategic plan to do that was executed really well.
Yeah, they wanted to keep it this time, probably.
Yes.
They're like, if we're going to bring it back, it's going to stay.
We're going to do it right, and they did.
Right. That's awesome. So with all the different types of colleges in Texas, is the recruiting like cutthroat, or is there enough high schools and stuff to you don't have to deal with that when you're looking at that?
I would tell you this: there's a lot of players in the state of Texas. We're right on the Louisiana border. There's a lot of players in Louisiana. We are a regional recruiting team. So, not to say if you look at our roster, we don't have anybody that's not from Texas or Louisiana. We do. There's probably 8 to 10 that are outside of those states, and usually that would be a transfer type situation. But there are plenty of players. There are plenty of Division I players. Finding the right fit is where you have to be really detailed and really intentional in background checks and talking to high school coaches and making sure it is a good fit for the school, for the program. And so that's what we do. Our job. That's why our job's really, it's where you earn your paycheck essentially.
Right.
It's not finding enough players. It's finding the right players.
Right. Because this recruiting world has like changed a lot for college coaches, and like I defend you guys because what we see on TV is the big time contracts. You see like, oh, there's Nick Saban's contract, like all these coaches. But I'm like, yeah, but even in Power 5, like a lot of the assistant coaches are not making big time money. FCS coaches are not making all that big time money, and then the world changed with the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, and all this stuff. You guys have to be on campus more and recruit a little bit different. Has it changed much at the FCS level down there, or like has it not? The trickle effect of the whole world changing not really affected like FCS?
Right. I would not say it was an extreme change at all. What I would say now is that the conversations sometimes you have in recruiting are a little different. People see Division I football and they think NIL, and we do have a collective. We've been very aggressive in doing that. Our athletic director has done a great job of being able to set that up. So we do have the ability to support some kids,
right?
But it is not going to be what you read on Twitter and what people are retweeting and Lamborghinis and all that stuff. It's not that. This is still a very pure form of football.
Yeah.
It's a chance for someone to come in and be able to be on scholarship, which allows them to have a debt-free college education, which should be a very high value, because you look at across the nation at college students, there's going to be a large majority that graduate with student loan debt, right? And attribute to them for graduating and finishing it out. But here you still do have the opportunity to come in, work hard, graduate with a debt-free college education, play Division I football, and I think that's very valuable.
Yes.
And so to me, those are the things that here we still have to celebrate, we still have to push, and so I think the trickle-down effect has been some, but not to a large extent like it is at a major FBS school.
Right, because I get a little bit different answers talking to FCS coaches. One kind of said this. He said that some are starting to feel like a junior college. And I said, well, how is that? And he said, well, think about it. We'll still recruit high school because maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, this kid would have went Power 5. But if they're doing the transfer portal, he doesn't go. So we can recruit heavier and maybe get him. Right. Well, then you develop him for 2 years. Let's say he becomes an All-American. Well, then somebody swoops in and takes him. So he's like, look, we're sort of kind of being a junior college for these Power 5s. He goes, now we have to do our job and recruit and make sure we're ready to replace that kid. But he said it is a little frustrating in that aspect. Now they're not complaining. They're like, we have to adapt or die in this world.
Yeah.
But he's like, it is frustrating when you develop them and then a place takes them. And so he's like, so we do feel like a junior college now. And that's how it's changing for a lot of them.
Right.
I don't know if you guys are seeing that in like the conference or around the area, or if it's like, nah, everything's still, status quo.
I would not call it status quo of 10 years ago. I would not say that. Here's what I would say. And it's along the lines of what the other coach said. Here's what I believe and here's what we believe. And as a recruiting coordinator here, here's the philosophy that I'm preaching to our staff is, listen, if we have a kid that is offered a certain amount of money to be in the portal and to go play at another school, chances are he played really well for us.
Right.
He made a lot of plays. So we were able to see that, to be a part of that, and be thankful for that. We will always have a next up board updated and ready to go so that we can replace him and be able to move in the same direction as we've been moving, and it's not going to be throw your hands up, complain, and the sky is falling in, because it's not.
Right.
Because they're, like you alluded to earlier, there is so many players here. We signed 21 high school players last year.
Oh,
and
wow.
so we are going to be at one of the top high school recruiting programs in the state year in and year out. That's a philosophy we believe in. We believe in developing players. And we believe in, I do not like the word retention. I'm not a big fan of saying retain players.
Right.
I'm a big fan of using the term you re-recruit your players.
Awesome.
And so
Awesome.
for me, that's a big philosophy as well. Is, I believe 10 years ago you should have been doing that, but certainly now you have to do that. And for me, that goes along the lines of who you are in recruiting is who you should be once they are on your team.
Right.
And so when the charter bus gets here for an official visit and they drop off the families at our facility, where are all the coaches? They're outside shaking hands, loving people up. They're excited for them to be there.
Right.
Well, so in turn, my personal philosophy is, if we have a 6:30 lift, then I'm outside at 6 o'clock welcoming players in, because if I did that in recruiting, why wouldn't I do that when they're on the team? I'm still excited they're here.
Right.
So, I think that's one thing that every player should be able to answer is, does your coach enjoy coaching you? Does your coach get excited for you to be in the building? The answer has to be yes. And if not, then your players should leave. I'm just being honest. You should lose your players. Now, there's going to be situations where you do it right. You have a great relationship. You have a great connection. And if a kid is offered $100,000 to get in the portal that has not experienced that type of financial income in their life, I understand them leaving. And I'm not promoting it. I'm not excited about it. But, at some point, I understand it. And I will support that player. I'm not turning my back on that player. I'll cheer for that guy to have success at his next institution. And so, yes, that is a part of it. But if that happens, then we've really enjoyed some good times with that player, because guys aren't getting stolen that aren't making plays.
You're right. And you don't want to burn a bridge either, because then what's that kid going to do? Well, when I left, this coach said F off, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And the word of mouth. And then another great answer I got from a coach was, a coach was like, well, this is how I look at it. Let's say a kid comes in, we develop him 2 or 3 years, All-American, does really well, and then a Power 5 takes him. I am happy for that kid to go on to do that. But then in turn, I use that as a recruiting tool. So I'm like, hey, we developed this kid into an All-American. You want to come here so we can try to develop you into an All-American. And then maybe one day you'll make money.
Right.
So they turn it into a positive, which I love about. Not one coach I've asked that question to has said super negative. Yes, they've talked about the frustrations of it and the changes dramatically. But he's like, but at the end of the day, we got to be positive. We got to adapt or die and everything else. Not one coach has been super negative about it, which is awesome about you guys and how hard you guys all work. And I hope it shows to people that don't believe everything you see on ESPN and Fox. Yes, it is the Wild West at times, but there's a lot of places where it's stable. Yeah. It's not exactly what you're seeing. And at the end of the day, like you said, if you build a relationship with the kid and they're going to stay, if they go, you still have a relationship with them. You just got to keep going. And you guys might have to work an extra hour a day or so, but you'll get it done.
Right. I mean, again, it's developing and it's re-recruiting. And we'll have multiple players on senior day this year that have played all 4 years for Lamar University, will graduate with a college degree. And we're super proud of those guys. And we're also the same amount of proud as the guys that when we lost somebody, we brought someone in of similar age to take their spot, and they will be graduating and be on our senior day. This will be the largest senior day Lamar University has seen in my time, and certainly I believe maybe since the rebirth of the program.
That's awesome, because you never hear that anymore. You never hear about, oh, this kid was here for 4 or 5 years, stayed at one spot.
Right.
Because, again, all we see in Power 5 is the leaving, and I see it, and I talk to coaches. I'm very blessed to have connections and, send messages and be like, hey, what's really happening? And you just never see it anymore, because some of those players, they're missing out on, the school pride part. There's nothing better than school pride of, I think it's a small percentage that go and just want the money and everything else. I think a larger percentage do like the school pride, in my opinion. We just see the other side.
I agree. And, I think those are conversations that you have with families and recruits as far as what I have asked all of the recruits that we are currently connecting with and recruiting is to ask for numbers on high school signees, transfer signees. What is the plan for the upcoming recruiting cycle? And so for me, that's a really big deal that you examine that staff. So we signed 21 high school players. We signed 7 out of the portal. So we are a 3-to-1 high school to transfer portal recruiting team.
Yeah.
Okay. We lost 5 players in the portal. Okay. If you go around and you ask certain programs how many they lost in the portal, the number is going to be a lot higher than 5. I'm not saying it's positive or negative, but you need to understand why. If there's a mass exodus from a program or a mass influx of transfers, what is causing that? Like I said, it doesn't always have to be negative, but maybe it is. And if I'm a potential student athlete, I want a consistency of a program with an identification and one that can execute their plan to develop me, and that I'm going to be re-recruited and I'm going to be valuable as a person and not just a player.
That's why, like, I grew up 20 minutes outside of Champaign-Urbana where U of I is, and that's why I'm a big fan of Brett Bielema, because I keep looking at him like they don't really lose guys in the portal. Like ever since he took over, they like don't lose players.
Yeah.
The only time they have is when they've brought somebody in from the portal that they just couldn't, like, oh, this kid's really good, and then it causes somebody to leave. And I'm like, okay, well, I get it. Like, I get it. But they really don't. And I got to go watch a practice up close and meet Bart Miller, their O-line coach, who's awesome. And it was the same thing. He's like, they had a lot of linemen because he's like, nobody left. He's like, yeah, we went 5-7 last year. We underperformed. And you would think that would cause kids to leave. Like, oh, F coach, F this. He goes, no, they had the burning desire to say, we're going to come back and do well. And I'm like, this is a prime example of the coaching staff of like how they're able to keep their guys there because they want to win. And then I hate the word culture, but it's like the standard, like it's the, that type of thing. And so I think that happens more often than not with schools. Like more will stay.
If that is happening, there is a certain level of satisfaction with your student athlete experience, which as a college coach, that should be priority number one. Is you have a small window with this student athlete. Are you maximizing who they are, their playing ability, and their overall experience? Are you giving them the best one possible? And if you are doing that, then I do not think you will have a mass exodus at the end of the season in the transfer portal.
Right. Yeah, I have a funny story from that practice, how the world has changed. So I'm there watching the U of I practice, which is awesome. You're right by the drills. It's awesome. Sure. A bus pulls up, and it's called Rising Stars. It's like high school kids are getting recruited. They get to come and watch and stuff. And after practice, I'm talking to Coach Miller. He goes over and talks to the kids. He comes back. Well, then the kids come over. They start handing him stuff. And I'm like, what are they handing? He goes, business cards. And I said, business cards? He goes, yeah, Steve, that's the way it is now. These kids got business cards. Like, hey, call me here, call this person. And I go, what? And he goes, you know what I do with half of them? And he tosses them. He's like, I hate it. I can't stand it. But then he goes, but that 6'7" kid that handed me one, maybe I'll call him. But he's like, this is what I got to do. He goes, it's so bad. And I said, I don't even think I knew what a business card was at 17 years old.
Right.
Like, that's crazy that I think 2 of them said they had agents. I'm like, agents? Like, what the hell is going on?
Is that legal? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's why I was like, he's like, I didn't hear that. He's like, I did not hear that. And I asked coaches, like, do they have business cards? And they're like, yeah. I've asked a lot of coaches, like, that's the new wave. So then I asked them, I said, I have kids that want to play college ball, but they may only go Division II. I'm not going to lie. Like, that's their max. I said, do they need business cards? They go, hell no. Do not have them make business cards because we hate it. And I said, you got it. He goes, they send messages on Twitter, email us, and we'll take care of the rest. He goes, don't be sending me stuff. And I said, you got it. And I think that's the difference. And I'm like, oh my God. I don't mean to keep talking about the recruiting thing, but it's just so fascinating.
It is.
How it's changed. And like, I defend college coaches, and that's why people don't like it. They're like, how can you defend college coaches? They make the money. And I'm like, you don't know. You have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean,
and they do football all day. I'm like, it's not just football all day. There's a lot of office work they got to do.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I mean, and to your point on the kids, is like, I mean, a high school kid that is in tune to what's going on, or has a coach that has educated him on what is going on in recruiting. I believe at the last AFCA convention I attended, I went to a recruiting seminar, and I believe this was 2 years ago. They said there was 1,000 to 1,500 less national letters of intent signed that cycle than 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And the projection was for it to keep going up. And so if I'm a high school player and I'm seeing those kind of statistics, yeah, then maybe I'm thinking of what's a different way that I can market myself and advocate for myself. And I encourage high school kids to do that. You should advocate for yourself. So if you think a business card is going to help someone lock your communication in, and maybe it has one of those QR codes that you can scan and I can get your phone number in my phone quickly, then go for it. And if the coach throws in the trash, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And because we each have our own way of wanting to communicate, wanting to connect. But I applaud at least the effort of trying to find a different strategy in an environment where there's just fewer high school kids getting opportunities, and they see that and they feel that.
Right. That's why I took it upon myself with the head coach. Usually he takes care of college stuff. And I finally put my foot down. I said, you know what? You got so much on your plate. Let me help you. So, like, I run the social media. I say, hey, college coaches, we got a couple guys that want to play. Email me or the head coach. And a coach had visited, and our head coach couldn't meet with them, so I do it. And I make sure I'm educated on, like, how to communicate with our kid, you know, like exactly what the coach is looking for, how to communicate, how to do this, what exactly they want on their highlight film, or like what they're actually looking for. So then I try to communicate that and say, like, I don't care what other players are telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you, because I've talked to the coach. This is what they want. And if this coach wants it this way, guess what? All of them are going to want it this way.
Yeah.
And so, like, they show me their film and they go, okay, here's my highlight film. It's like 6 minutes. I said, no. We got to trim that bad boy down.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, how do I trim it down? I'm like, I don't care how you do it. Trim that bad boy down to like 1.5 minutes. And they go, why? I said, because they're not going to watch a 6-minute highlight film. And then I try to be different. I go, hey, instead of just showing them the catch or the tackle, find a clip where you're hustling to the spot. Find a clip where you're getting off a block, even though you don't make the tackle, you're doing it. Well, then I got to watch all the film. I said, exactly, because they'd rather see that stuff all the time than the big hit, the catch, this and that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to help them in that area. And then it's a small world, because then the kids will tell me, oh, I'm talking to a coach from this school. And I go, well, guess what? I had a coach on from that school on my podcast. Give me 1 second. And I send them a message like, are you recruiting this kid? And they're like, yeah. Oh my God, you coach at that high school. And then they'll start asking me questions, and we start having the conversation and all that stuff. So I love that stuff now. Like, it's super awesome.
Yeah, that is good stuff. I mean, you know, I think you're doing a really good job of advising those kids, especially on their highlight films, like as a receiver coach. And, you know, I turn on the film and the defensive back falls down and you caught a 45-yard go route with nobody. You know, I'm good. Your first 5 clips can buy you another 10 clips.
Right.
And then those clips cannot get you an offer. At least I hope college coaches aren't offering kids off highlight films. So what it can do, it can rule you out, but it can't rule you in. But what it can get you is for me to watch game film. And so then I'm going to turn on the full game film and go at it from that. But you're exactly right. The first 5 clips should show a variety of skill set, of hustle, of toughness, of being physical. It doesn't all have to be dynamic playmaking, although, you know, that's obviously good to show in the first couple clips, but it should be more than just you catching go routes from a quarterback that, you know, you're running away from because he runs 5 flat in the 40 and you run 4.6. I mean, I'd like to see some contested catches. I'd like to see some willingness to block. I'd like to see what you do on special teams. I'd like to see what you do with a short pass and what you can do in the open field. So there's a number of different ways that we've tried to advise people just to help them, just like you're saying. So that's really good stuff.
Well, that's funny because I got 2 kids that are receivers and they want to go play college ball. And I remember telling one, and since you're the wide receivers coach, you could correct me. We have a kid that played receiver. We had a special play. It was a one-word no-huddle play where we're in a bunch. He motions over. We toss it to him, fake option this way. We're running power, and he runs up the middle.
Yeah.
We ran it like 5 times, and every single time he got 8 to 12 yards. And I said, pick one of those. And he goes, why? I'm a receiver. I got to show catch. I was like, no. If you could show them, like, I can go in motion real quick, get the ball and run up the middle sometimes. Awesome. And then he was an awesome kick returner. And I said, hey, get 2 clips of 2 big time returns, not the open ones, but you making somebody miss or doing this.
Right.
But I'm a receiver. I'm like, no, do this. Because if you could show that you play special teams, you show that you're willing to like run the football and do something else, then they're intrigued. Then they'll start to ask us questions, or like you said, go to other film. And so I tell them that, like, just find unique ways to show that you're doing something other than like running a go route or a hitch or a slant. They see all that.
Right.
Find something else. On a key screen, are you actually blocking? Are you actually getting to that spot and showing some hustle?
Right.
Because they just might recruit you off that.
There's no question. That's really good advice. I mean, are you willing to go dig out a safety as a single receiver? And, and what I try to talk to my receivers about all the time is, listen, when you are running a go route, no running back said, hey, I want to go play college football so I can pick up blitzing linebackers. But in that moment where the quarterback getting the ball to you is based on if he's going to do that, how hard do you want that running back to step up and block the linebacker? Really hard, coach. We want him to take him. Yeah. And when that running back gets the ball, he feels the same way about you. So, so if you're willing to go dig out a safety and do that in the run game, then that shows me something about you and who you are as a person, not just a player. Nobody signs up and says, hey, I'm going to play college football because I want to be on a punt team and run down and cover punts. But you have a skill set where you can be pretty good at it.
Right. And that's talking even special teams coordinators. They say, Steve, that's one of the first ways if a kid wants to play college ball, tell them that you have to play special teams in high school. Yeah. It will show us, and then it just kind of builds itself over time. And so, and I said, well, the stigma of special teams is like, oh, let's get the sophomores in that don't play and stuff like that. And I said, at our school, we try to get certain starters off, but we also keep certain starters on.
Right.
And in that aspect to like, okay, you do get a break. And it's mainly, your D-line or O-line. Like, okay, you got to come off and put some linebackers out there. But like, I had a kid for 3 years. He started at O-line. He was our starting guard and middle linebacker.
Wow.
And I told him, if you go play college ball, you'll never be a guard. You are going to be a fullback, linebacker, special teams guy. And he signed to play Division III at the end of the school. And that's exactly what happened because of the fact that he was willing to be on special teams and make the tackle, that he was playing linebacker. I even had a clip of him getting a handoff. I put him in the backfield to get him the ball to run because he was super fast, just exposing that for Division III.
Right.
And they loved it. They were like, oh, my God, he can go anywhere. And I said, yep, this is the type of kid you're getting. And so I hope that other kids see that on our team and go, wow, they moved him around and got him to go to Division III and play college ball. Hopefully I can do the same. And so that's kind of our thought process. Our head coach is great about it. He played at North Central, Division III powerhouse now. And I live right down the street from them. I live in Naperville, so I can go see them, and they are mass. They look like a FCS school.
No question.
But he played it at Division III, so he understands how that works. Well, the funny thing is, and I don't mean to stay on this, our kids sometimes go, well, that's just Division III. And I'm like, you want to go watch North Central's practice? You want to actually see?
There's some dudes.
I said, guys, I'm 6'5", like 285. There's dudes there that are going to make me look small. Like, you want to go watch? It's just Division III. And so I tried to celebrate it all. So the kid that went Division III, I posted all over our social media and blah, blah, blah. I was like, let's celebrate this.
You have to. I mean, if you're in the top 6%, if you're in the top 6% of podcasters in the nation, then you're a really good podcaster. If you're in the top 6% of high school football players, you're an elite high school football player. Those kids go play Division III, and it's really good football, and you should never be ashamed of that and never turn your nose up at it. You get a chance to play football while you go to college, I'm in. So, to me, those kids, like you're saying, it's never just Division III. College football is college football. If you're a college football player, you're freaking good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the bottom 96% podcaster. I'm really down here.
You're working your way up.
Hey, this is one of the toughest things I've ever tried to do is this freaking podcast. And the funny part is I started in February of 2020 and it wasn't supposed to be like talking to coaches. It was supposed to be just something else. COVID hit and I'm like, well, there's nothing to talk about now because nothing's going on.
Yeah.
And then the funny story is then a coach reached out to me and said, hey, I'm bored. How did you start your podcast? Because I'm bored. And I said, well, this is how I did it. So he started one. Then another coach started one. Then they started to get coaches on. And I said, wait a minute. I gave you guys this idea. Don't take my idea. So then I tried to get coaches on. So it became like a friendly competition of like who can get the most coaches on. I think I did 12 in 1 week and I did like 6 in 1 day. I was just let's do this.
Yeah.
And it's been going ever since. It's just never stopped. Because I love meeting new people. I love talking to coaches. And some coaches wanted a platform like, hey, I'll talk to this guy. Somebody sees me, boom. And I'm like, awesome. I really don't care how it works.
No, I think what you're doing is great. I mean, it was a need in COVID. Now it's just beneficial for everybody. I mean, we all dreaded going through COVID and hated it, but there were some really good things like this that came out of it.
Oh yeah, like I said, I got COVID 3 times, so like having COVID was terrible. Like the first time I thought we were dying, I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. Then the second time it lasted for like a day, and the third time it lasted for an hour. Okay. And so when I got COVID, I said, this is terrible. I don't wish this upon anybody. But then I tried to take a positive like this, like, oh, talking to coaches was a thing. Learning technology was a thing. Not taking for granted sports was a thing. Like this is what and I took the job where I'm at now in the summer of 2020 like an idiot because I said, oh, COVID's not going to last that long.
Right.
And we had our spring season, and that was my first time feeling like a college coach because we had our spring season. I coached all 3 sports. All 3 sports were in that spring. So I did basketball, football, track within like a 5-month period. And then when summer hit, Illinois said, go back to normal. So we started all of our camps all over again in the summer, basketball, football, track camps.
Oh, wow.
Then we had our fall season. That fall season was the worst season of all time because we went through 5 quarterbacks because they kept getting hurt. We went through 3 tight ends. I never had the same starting O-line group in any game because somebody would get hurt. It was the worst thing ever. And we sat back and we went, are they getting hurt because of us? Like, what did we do? Why are they getting so injured? And I said, no, think about it. We played a spring season, then we went into the summer, and then we played again. Like, their bodies are torn down, and they do other sports. So their bodies are torn down. And it was like the worst thing. That was the one time where every single coach, you could see the gray hairs popping in. We were all just like, and then worried about the COVID stuff on top of it. Because then when we went back to school, the restrictions came back, and we were like, just more stressed out. And that's I don't mean to stay on COVID, but it was an eye-opening experience of like how to keep players healthy, how to scale back stuff to make it more simple, and how to make it more fun because who knows when it's going to be taken away. So that's kind of where we learned. So like last year we had a water balloon fight randomly after practice, just trying to have fun. But then they turned on the coaches. That was the worst part. They went after each other. They said, wait a minute, we could throw them at the coaches. So they chased us around. Yeah. And or then we had a watermelon eating contest, like just trying to find unique ways. And it was just random. We never told them. It was just right after practice. Hey, go to that cooler over there and there's watermelons. Like, okay, we're having a watermelon contest. Or like, hey, we're going to go to the pool. We're going to find the community pool and go. So because of COVID, we learned how to we got to keep it fun. We got to scale it back. We can't kill these kids. We have to be understanding, and so that's kind of the positive.
Yeah, college kids like those things too. I'm here to tell you.
Well, Coach, I've taken a lot of your time this morning. I appreciate you coming on here. Sorry there was no scheme or anything, but I like other things.
All good.
But I appreciate you.
When it comes down to it, a scheme doesn't matter unless you have all those other things in place.
That is true, but I do love talking scheme. But yes, in the grand scheme of things,
right.
Well, what's the old saying? Whoever has the pen last is right. So that's why I don't like it.
Right, and it's really whoever builds trust with your players and can get them to execute things that they understand is really the one that holds the pen last. So, that's something that I firmly believe in. Is like, we all know good schemes. We've all been around great mentors that know how to score touchdowns. But at the end of the day, if your players don't trust you and their players don't connect with you and you don't have a vested interest in them off the field, then the scheme is probably not going to work. And if they do buy into what you believe in the culture that you've built, then the scheme's probably going to work. And so, that can be a different talk for a different day. But I think you're exactly right. There's so many other facets of this coaching profession other than being able to draw up plays, because really guys that can draw up plays are a dime a dozen.
Oh yeah. I don't mean to, I know a coach that does both. His name's Derek Leonard. He's here at Rochester, Illinois. He's won 8 state titles. He's all over clinics. He's the only one really that I've seen that he goes, yeah, since I'm the head coach and the play caller, I can draw up whatever I want and see if it works just because I'm the boss. And usually it works. But he goes, don't worry, in practice, I tried and it doesn't work.
Right.
But he also said the same thing. He's like, but we've established a standard that this is how we run things and this is how we do it. And his coaching staff doesn't leave. So they have the same coaches. So that's already built in. So he's like, I am blessed that I can just throw a napkin of a play out on the practice field and see if it works.
Correct.
But he's like, but Steve, let's say one year I have a huge offensive line. I'd be an idiot to not run the ball. So I have to change.
Mm-hmm.
If I come in with a quarterback that can sling it 70 yards and is super accurate, I'd be a fool to not pass it a little more than run it. So he's like, I'm not an idiot. I have to, he goes, but I like to have fun and throw things out and keep it entertaining. And, but the kids believe in it. If I could, he goes, Steve, we're not a wing T team, but I could draw up an entire wing T formation and do that and show it to the kids. They'd go out there and do it.
Correct.
And that's not who we are, but they'd go do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. And that's why you've won 8 state titles in the past 10 years.
Yeah, he has a standard set. He has the culture entrenched, and my guess is he probably holds that standard pretty high every day for coaches and players.
Yeah. Oh, he does. Well, Coach, I appreciate you again. Thank you for coming on here.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me. This is fun.